let's get into the main part of the show. What are the heaviest power cleans of all time? Now, this question has come to me because recently we saw Ali Davoudi last week in training, the Iranian junior world record holder, the guy who was supposedly going to be the next super Iranian super, I suppose, after the days of Rezazadeh, Salimi, Saeed Ali Hosseini, Bahadur Moulay. This guy was going to be it, and he hasn't yet turned into it. But he did just post a 220 kilo power clean that got me thinking, what are some of the other heaviest power cleans of all time? So we've actually seen 220 kilos by a few people, and I'm going to go through those. I think the most impressive 220 we've ever seen has to come from Evgeny Chigashev, the super heavyweight, who did this as a Russian weighing only 124 kilos. He's actually known for being one of the lightest super heavies ever, alongside guys, I suppose, like Anatoly Pizarenko. Now, this 220 kilo power clean by Sinclair is certainly the most impressive from the super heavyweights, but really, once you enter that super heavyweight category, you almost forfeit the right to take Sinclair too seriously. Also, just as an interesting point, Chigashev's 210-250 performance that he did, weighing 124 kilos, actually ranks him by Sinclair higher than Liu Xiaojun, Ilya Ilyin, and even people like Stefan Botev. Sticking with other 220 kilo clean and jerks, the most easy, the most impressive of all certainly comes from the OG Iranian super heavyweight Hossein Rezazadeh. Now, this 220 kilo power clean, I believe, was from a training session just prior to the 2004 Athens Olympic Games. So at this point, we'd already seen Rezazadeh clean and jerk a world record 263.5 kilos, the heaviest clean and jerk, at least at that point in the modern era, not looking at the 266 Taranenko sort of 1980s era. And this 220 kilos looks stupid easy. In fact, I had a podcast with Shane Hammond, the strongest American weightlifter of all time, and he said that he saw Rezazadeh power clean 240 kilos in a training hall. If it wasn't for the fact that this 220 kilos looks just so easy, I might not believe that, but I think it's probably true considering this 220. Now, the one guy that doesn't have a power clean that can compete with these guys, and there are still a few more to go with, is Lasha Talakhadze. In fact, the most we've ever seen from him is 210 kilos, and he actually missed it on one of his attempts and then made it on the next, though he did have straps on, caught it with the elbows a little bit low, and just dropped it. It certainly wasn't a height issue, more of a technical one. But considering that Lasha can snatch 220 kilos and more, in fact, we've seen him do more nationally, plus the fact that he currently has the heaviest clean and jerk in the world, 264 kilos, the current world record, in fact. And then just the fact that Lasha's a puller. I mean, he's an amazing squatter, but he's a puller through and through. Look at the guy. He's a serious puller. Those arms, those legs. I can only think that he must have power cleaned more, or he must be able to power clean substantially more. Whether or not his coach George Yashinidze lets him do that, I don't know. In fact, I've basically never seen the Georgians do any type of power variation. But I can only assume that Lasha's physiology and strength certainly would allow him to compete with these guys, at least at the 220 level, probably a bit more. Next, we've got the guy in the super heavyweight category who actually holds the title, but we're going to go through some of his lifts. It's Behzad Salimi. Now, Behzad Salimi, 2011 world champion, snatched 214, ended up snatching 216 back in Rio for a new world record. It was absolutely fantastic. And he's a great clean and jerker, though perhaps not jerker, but a great cleaner. Dodgy elbows. 215 we have here. He then did 225 kilos in that same session. But before we move on to his best ever power clean, which he then actually went on and jerked, let's head over to Andrei Chemerkin. Now, Andrei Chemerkin is probably known for two things predominantly, maybe three. The first, his weight. The second, the fact that he's the only person to ever attempt a 600-pound clean and jerk, 272 kilos in competition. And the third, that it takes at least a weight of 250 kilos to actually compress his arms enough such that the bar actually racks on his shoulders when he's attempting a heavy clean. But this video of Andrei Chemerkin shows him attempting, or maybe making, a power clean at 230 kilos. The problem is the camera zooms out so much that we can't actually see whether or not this is a power clean. It sort of certainly seems like it's going to be a pow being a clean that is not technically a power but is above the full depth. But then again, Andrei Chemerkin barely even gets below parallel anyway. This 230 to me feels like it's a power. I just wish they had zoomed out more. And then finally, and don't worry, I'm going to go on to some of the biggest power cleans from the lighter guys, but the heaviest power clean on camera ever comes back to our guy, Behdad Elbow Salimi's 232 kilos. He does the classic starfish. Nobody cares. It's 232 kilos. It's over 500 pounds. It's absolutely ridiculous. And he actually turns out that he makes a jerk on this one, which is surprising for Salimi. So those are the heavier guys. I'm going to go on to 4 of the other most impressive power cleans of all time from some of the lighter guys. Before I do that, who do you think could power clean the most? What do you think Lasha could actually power clean? Could he power clean 240? I kind of feel like he could. It's just whether or not he puts the brakes on. But when he pulls the bar in a clean and jerk, he pulls it high enough to power, that's for sure. So let's move on now to some slightly lighter athletes. We've got Ilya Ilyin as a 105. Now this is from the President's Cup. So this was him not even trying to power clean as much as possible. He was just working up to his famous 246 kilo clean and jerk world record, which still counts. He never lost that record. He just lost his Olympic records and performances. 210 kilos as a 105, it's 2 times body weight, and he makes it look really quite easy. Next, however, and suddenly a more impressive lift, we now have Tian Tao, one of the masters in the cleaning world, as an 85 kilo athlete, weighing 20 kilos less than Ilya. He power cleans just 5 kilos less, and he does it in competition. 205 kilos for Tian Tao. He also hit that same weight in training. Next, and I don't know which is more impressive, we now head down to a lighter 76 kilo weight category, a weight category that some of you probably didn't even know existed. It is a relic of the 1990s, one of the shortest lived weight classes in existence. And we have Pablo Lara power cleaning 190 kilos in the training hall at, I believe it was an Olympic Games, could have been Atlanta 96, where he actually went on to do 162.5, 205. The 205, I believe, was actually a world record. It's actually in this book, The Greatest Weightlifters of All Time, along with actually a bunch of the performances I've mentioned. Rezazadeh's in there, Chigashev's in there, Lasha's in there, Ilya's in there, Tian Tao's in there. In fact, almost all of these guys are in there. In fact, the one guy who isn't in there, who actually probably wins the most impressive power clean of all time, is our next person, the final person I'm going to go on to, Shi Zhiyong. Now, everyone knows that Shi Zhiyong is a masterful power cleaner. He hit 190 kilos at the World Championships on his opening attempt to win in the total, which I still maintain is the greatest weightlifting flex of all time. But he's also hit 194 kilos, and he did that also in competition, but it just wasn't a major competition. But 194 kilo power clean in 73 kilo weight category, there is no doubt, while Salimi might hold the absolute heaviest power clean of all time, Shi Zhiyong surely is the best power clean of all time. What do you guys think? Comment down below.